United States of America, it is no stranger to gun violence, but one American city is actually living in a perpetual state of emergency. For the last 2 years, Chicago has led our nation in homicides. And over this 4th of July weekend, according to the Chicago Tribune, 82 people were shot, 14 of them fatally, with most of the violence occurring on the city's south and west sides. It is a daunting and systemic crisis that the city's leaders and police force seem to have little remedy for. But there is one courageous high schooler that is striving to make a difference. 17-year-old Razia Hutchins joining us now live from her home in Chicago. Hello, Razia.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us today. Tell me what it's like there. What's the atmosphere like where you live, and how were you personally affected by what went on this weekend?
Well, in Chicago, I really can't say much about it because it's my community. It's where I'm from. So it's like I'm scared, but I'm not scared because it's where I grew up at. It's where my family is, where my friends are. It's where we all just come together. But at the same time, to know that I can be gunned down just by walking into my house, yeah, it's scary.
Did you...
And also...
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it was the 4th of July weekend, and of course, just like you said, the Sun-Times reported 82 people were gunned down in the city of Chicago, and some of those people I know.
Wow. That is crazy.
Razia, you're featured in a new documentary that shines a light on the violence in Chicago. Let's watch a clip right now.
We have a total of 10 adults and 1 3-year-old.
Some of the children I may have grew up with, they're either 6 feet under or behind bars.
Chicago closed 2012 with more than 500 murders.
I saw my whole neighborhood change through violence.
We were in our discipline life class, and we had a discussion about one of the young men who were killed at a high school basketball game, and it was just really terrifying.
So, Razia, while the murder you were referring to just there is obviously terrifying, it was the reaction by some of your classmates to that shooting that really scared you. Would you mind telling us about that and what you did in response?
So at Perspective Charter School, we have what is called a discipline life. So it's based off of all of these 26 principles, and we also have a class about it. And in our class of discipline life, we often have conversations and group discussions, and while we were discussing this current event, my classmates' responses were just like, well, it's another day in Chicago. What do you expect? And they just acted like it had to hit home for it to matter to them. So they were just like, we feel sorry for that family, but, you know, what did you expect in Chicago? Of course he's going to get gunned down by gun violence.
That's so, it's so unbelievably heartbreaking, and I think you're very brave. I don't know, Sal, do you have something to add?
Yeah, what do you think is to blame for so many of your peers joining gangs and taking part in this violence?
I wouldn't say who's to blame or what's to blame. Really, just let's all take responsibility for our actions. Yes, my peers, they don't have the option of whether or not to be in a gang or not. What some people don't know is that some people are born into gangs because their families are so heavily involved into it. So they have to go into the gang. They don't have a choice. But also they need to take that responsibility. One of my fellow peers at Perspectives, he was born into a gang because of his family, but he came to Perspectives and it just all turned his life around. We don't need to point fingers like who's to blame. Let's all just take responsibility. In Chicago, everyone just needs to take responsibility. It shouldn't have to be a time where my little cousins and I can't go outside and just play a game of it because my aunt and my parents are scared that we'll be gunned down, we'll be the next victims. We can't even go to the park on our own or enjoy this nice summer weather. It's ridiculous.
It truly is ridiculous that we're having this conversation about something like this that's happening in America. And you mentioned the community taking responsibility and people making new choices. But the city government, the police, they seem to be confounded. They don't know what to do. What do you think can happen from that end to help make some real and lasting changes in your community?
A big issue is that what my parents always tell me, it starts at home. And some of these kids don't come from a home where I come from or where my friends may come from, where it's very positive and supportive. They come from these poisonous homes, and then they go into these poisonous schools, and then their mindset is just poison. And in Chicago, you can't find a lot of good public high schools. The public high schools out here are just ridiculous. And that's what really makes a lot of them drop out and turn to different activities, such as hanging on the corner or doing stuff that involves gun violence or selling drugs. It's really, everyone plays a part in it, from the city to the mayor, with not even enough jobs to provide for these people. And they're just all sitting out, and not enough community centers with mentors that can help some of these kids or young adults out there go to the right path from the wrong.
I have to say, Razia, listening to you speak at 17, you sound like an accomplished young woman who knows what her purpose is. What do you look forward to in the future? What do you want to do?
In the future, I just hope to inspire. I was filling out this scholarship application, and they were like, what's your favorite subject? And my favorite subject is history. I've always been a fan of history because I look at leaders from my past, like Medgar Evers and Malcolm X, and I see all that they've done for me. So my big thing is, what can I do for the next generation so they can have more opportunities that I didn't have? Just like people like Medgar Evers and Mae Jemison and all of these other people did for me.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
What can the average person do that's watching right now, if they can do anything to help you in your community?
Well, I always tell my peers, be a victim or be a voice. The whole purpose of this documentary is to get the way perspectives disciplines children. The 26 principles, they're a guideline. They help us all be young ethical leaders. And this documentary is to show that, and it's also to show young people like me, because when I first started out with this movement, my peers were like, do you really think you're gonna change something? And look what that one voice did. Look where that one voice got me. So just because you are one voice, that does not mean that you cannot make a difference. So I really want everyone to get encouraged, whether it's gun violence or human trafficking, whether it's anything, you need to speak up about it if it's wrong.
Thank you so much, Razia, and we wish you a safe summer, and just, you're doing amazing work. To learn more on the I Am for Peace campaign that hopes to spread peace on Chicago's South Side, you can visit pcsedu.org.